Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. Let me start by first thanking those of you who made the time to join our virtual launch on Saturday, the launch of our Sankofa uh, storybooks website for children. Thank you very much. You made that outing a great success. Um, our guest today is someone I'm really very excited to be talking about. She's one half of the dynamic duo behind Tunacheki channel on YouTube, one of Africa's most popular channels on YouTube. She studied business admin and mass communication, has several years of experience as a content producer and website designer. She is, in fact, I'm just very excited to be talking to her because she has recently added another feather to her already beautiful cap by becoming a children's story writer. But before we meet her, have you downloaded your free copy of our children's illustrated biographies of great Africans? If you haven't done so, please do. It is important that our children are told our history, our stories from a very early age in life so that they can make that difference that we expect them to make. Now, please join me in welcoming Linda Omare.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Bumi, for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm just really so excited to have you here. I love what you're doing. So,
Thank you.
but before we go on. Let's get to know you a bit more. You know,
Okay.
because I know that one of the reasons why I'm a writer today has to do with my childhood. So, what
Mm,
kind of childhood did you have?
that's an interesting question. My childhood, I'd say, really influenced my life today, as you have said. I grew up, let me say, in a big family, and I have a very interesting father who's a good storyteller. You know, he used to tell stories of how he'd walk barefoot 100 kilometers. It's all exaggerated. And when he's walking to school, he'd meet with a lion. You know how they used to tell us interesting stories. I'm sure there was some few truths to that, but his creativity and his way he'd storytell, you'd just be so interested. Also, one of my fondest memories is also my bedtime. I'd plead with my mom to allow me to read a storybook before I fall asleep. So most
Mm,
nights I fall asleep with a book in hand, but unfortunately, I think I can say I grew up mostly reading Western books, the Cinderellas, the Nancy Drews, the Hardy Boys. So that is what I grew up reading, and I can say there was an influence. It impacted me in a negative way. Yeah. Mm,
I know. In fact, I think your generation was even luckier than mine.
really.
Yes, growing
Mm,
up, I
mm-hmm,
only, and I will never forget this book. The only book I ever read that
mm-hmm,
was a children's story book written by an African is a
mm-hmm,
book called My Father's Daughter by Mabel Shea.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm,
made made such an impact on me. You know, I
mm,
realized that although like you, I enjoyed a lot of storytelling. My maternal grandmother was a
yeah.
fantastic storyteller, you know.
Uh,
And yes, so she regaled me with all kinds of stories when I was growing up. But until I read My Father's Daughter, I actually did not realize that it was possible for me, you know, as an African, to be
mm,
to write stories.
mm,
So I'm sure every writer you come across has this kind of background, you know,
yeah.
having been raised with fantastic stories growing up. It's what awakens our creativity.
Yes, especially the like Africans, we just know how to tell stories. If it's your grandparents, if it's your parents, we have the art of telling stories. So just growing up, maybe when it's holidays, going to visit your grandparents and just sitting and listening to the stories, it takes you to another world. I'm sure they exaggerated their stories, but it was a beautiful thing to see.
Which is why what you're doing is so important. You
Thank
know,
you.
a
Mm.
lot of children might not have the kind of um, um,
Upbringing.
childhood that we had or you
Mhm.
had, where your parents actually had the time to tell you stories or make
Mm.
up stories. It's
Yeah.
a grind nowadays, especially children on the continent. So
Yeah,
by
everyone is busy. Hmm. They don't have time to sit with their parents. Or even it's hard for you to go visit your grandparents if they're still alive. Also, just to spend time with the extended family. Everyone is busy at the moment. So, yeah, we are losing that
yeah,
storytelling culture. And it was a great way to bond with the extended families.
yeah. So
Mm.
that's what you're doing. Honestly, you
Sorry.
what you're doing is fantastic because you're bridging that gap. You're
Mm.
providing that, you know, those books and stories that children might not have access to at home. Now,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
when you actually sit down to write, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for children, what is the what do you aim to achieve? What's the important thing behind your mind that, oh, this is the reason why I'm writing for kids and maybe not for adults? Like why have you chosen to write for kids?
Right, that's a good question. As I said, for me, I grew up with those Cinderellas and Snow White. I was even trying to think these storybooks that we read, maybe it's because our parents didn't have other alternatives, but it really affects a child, yeah?
Yeah.
Because you're being told about your Prince Charming who will come riding on a white horse. So that's what you expect to see. Like growing up, you as a young girl, you're just waiting for this blonde, blue-eyed prince to come and whisk you away. Well, that's not the African typical man. Like your typical man is maybe somewhere in a farm hustling to make ends meet, or even if he's working in an office. We don't have that African image to look up to. So I really wanted to do something to change that. So that's one of the reasons. I feel like as a young girl, especially, what you read when you're young really affects your life. It really influences your life. And also in Kenya, so I'm based in Kenya. I grew up in Kenya. Our school system didn't really teach us how to, to learn about other African countries. You'd learn about what happened in Kenya with the colonization, but you don't learn about your neighboring African countries. So finally, when I got the opportunity, like for me, Chimamanda is one of my favorite authors because she took me to see the world of Nigeria and what they went through with the coups, even with her book like Africana, just learn about how Africans used to try so much to go abroad, and you think that you'll have a better life there when you are going to miss so much wealth and so much opportunities in Africa. So one of my aims in life is just to show the little boys and girls that African history and African being an African is so rich. So we have so much to look forward to. Don't look at the Western media organizations and influences and believe that their life is better. We have so much as Africans to enjoy, and we need to be firm in our identity. So it all starts as when you're a child.
In fact, you just hit the nail on the head. You know,
Thank you.
um, books allow us to travel. You
Yes.
know,
Mm.
opens the world up for us, even if we're just in one small corner of the world. And but if the only books available for our kids are books about America,
Yeah.
Europe, and what have you, then like you said,
Mm.
you'll never get to know their continent and its wealth of culture, its rich history, the brilliant, valiant, men and women, on whose shoulders we stand on. It's fantastic. And So you preempted my next question because you told me that the main character in your book is a girl. You
Yes,
know, because
a tiny girl.
yeah, tell us a bit more about this girl.
um, okay, so the book is called Maua and the Garden of Plenty. Maua is Swahili for flower. So even if we'll give you a trailer of the book, but you'll see her. She's a tiny little girl, and if you look at me, I am a tiny little person. So for me, it was easy for me to write about that experience because it's something I've lived through. Let's say maybe when I was young, it did affect me. I felt I was different, and I'm sure there are very many children. It may not be that you're tiny, but as a child you grow up being affected and you want to fit in, you want to be like everybody else, but what makes you different is actually a positive, and we should teach our children that no, what makes them different is special. So Mawa is a very tiny girl. She had many brilliant ideas, but because of the fact that she was tiny, she would kind of suppress herself. But as we go through the book, you can see her evolving into a beautiful flower, like her name says, and she ends up saving her entire village.
Oh, awesome.
Mm.
I'm curious to see the trailer.
Yes, you can
It
see
will
the
be awesome. Because I
trailer.
can't wait to get my hand on on my copy of the book.
Thank you.
In a world faced with unforeseen turmoil, a disaster so big even Azania's great chief is left helpless, comes one girl, one very tiny girl, one very, very small but powerful girl who is ready to rise to the challenge. Meet Malwa, a sibling of many in a very big and busy home. Though often overlooked, this doesn't stop her from having great ideas, one of which just might save her village experiencing extreme food scarcity. Join Malwa on a journey of a lifetime to save her people and teach them the valuable lesson about self-confidence, hard work and gratitude in this brilliant book, Malwa and the Garden of Plenty, written by Chinacheki and published by Kunda Kids.
Oh, I can see this being made into, a movie for kids already. And
Nice.
I love. Okay, I noticed that you set it in Azania.
Mm-hmm.
That Azania. Why Azania? It has great resonance. Why Azania?
Yes, so we wanted the book to be based in, it is based in Africa. We didn't really want to specify that it is based maybe in Kenya or Nigeria. And
Yes.
as you know, Azania was used to be what was referred to around Eastern
South
Africa, right?
Africa too.
Yeah, so that's why we chose the name.
It's brilliant. And what that does for me is showing a, a very vivid imagination, and then also awakening that kind of imagination in the children who would read it. Because I can just see children coming up with the book, and I'm like my 8-year-old grandson, and wondering, Azania. I don't know of any country in Africa called Azania, and that would lead him to go and find out the
Yes.
history of Azania. So kudos for that. I love that, and I understand it's one of a series. It's not just a one-off book. That you plan to write 5 more.
Yes, so we've partnered with Kunda Kids. Kunda Kids is this amazing Black-owned children's publishing company. They have amazing books. We'll show you a trailer of them. And when they reached out to me, I was I jumped on that opportunity because when you see the quality of their books, it's amazing. So they are Black-owned and they want to change the narrative of the stories that are going out. They have books like Mansa Musa, Queen Moremi, so many books that teach children about their history, but in a beautifully illustrated way. So we have the first book with them, that is Mawa and the Garden of Plenty, and we are planning on writing 5 more books with them. So that's something you can watch out for. I think we can show you some of the books now. We have a trailer for you. Yes, so
Nice.
those are some of their books. I feel like they're rich in a space that has been untouched. You know, it's very unfortunate. Like I'm very embarrassed to say this, but I found out about Mansa Musa when I was above 25 years old. It was not something we thought about. Who would even ever imagine one of the richest men to have lived was from Africa? You know, when we were taught in school, we were taught maybe Africa didn't have much, but we have so much wealth, we have so much knowledge. It's just that it is not being taught to us as children. So through the books, I'm sure children of these coming generations will, their minds will be so open and they'll really do good things, do great things.
In fact, he was not just one of the richest men who ever lived. He was, even by today's standards, the
Was it?
richest person who ever lived. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I also have a children's book on him, and it's the most popular of all my children's biographies. So I'm excited that our children have so many avenues to get to know, about this significant person in Africa's history, and to know
Can you
that Africa has not
imagine?
always
Yeah.
been poor.
Can you imagine how enlightened they'll be growing up reading about Mansa Musa, about Queen Moremi? You know, as a little boy or little girl, you have somebody to look up to who looks like you, and you dream big because you're like, if Mansa Musa was the wealthiest man to have lived, I can also do great things.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
have,
yeah.
yes,
It's we're inspiring our children. We're
yes.
we're we're taking away, we're chiseling away at the age-old negative narratives about Africa as a place of only slavery, colonization, and poverty. We're reminding them of Africa's glorious past. And if at that time Africa could have been that glorious, there's nothing stopping us from, you know, from a
Yes.
renaissance to gain back our position in this world. I tell people, look, can you imagine a world where Europeans never left their continent and Africans never left our continent?
Yes.
Can you imagine the difference in lifestyle? Because our resources are the things that have made all these other parts of the world, the Americas, Europe. It is our resources that they
True.
built their wealth on. So I really love what you're doing. So where can we find your books?
Okay, so we have not yet launched the book. I'll mention about the launch soon, but right now you can get the books on the website of Kunda Kids. We'll write it in the chat, but it's www.kundakids.com. And great news for all those who are watching, you can get a discount of 15% if you use the code MAUA15. Now we are also having a launch in Nairobi, Kenya. You know, it all starts from home. So we are having a launch on the 5th of March. We want to welcome everybody who will be available. It will be in the village market from 12 noon to 4 p.m.
Exciting.
Yes.
And let me also seize the opportunity to remind people too of our Sankofa children's book website, which we launched on Saturday. You can Google it by writing Sankofa Children's Books or nanadaycare.org. Nanadaycare.org. We have biographies there. Like Mansa Musa is one of the biographies we also have there. We have nursery rhymes. We have history of Africa for kids, all illustrated most also animated. We also have resources for parents. We have curriculum for children from age 6 months to 36 months, free. You can go
Wow.
and download it so you can know how to work with your children to prepare them for school. We also have blogs, on things like potty training, sleep training. It's a whole gamut of things. Just visit the website and explore it.
Maybe you can let us know what was your inspiration behind the website.
The website, it's honestly a frustration that there are not enough resources for parents and kids. I'm a grandmother now, but growing up, my children too were so much into the Nancy Drews and all of that. And I had to start making up stories for them. And when I started making up stories for them, one of them just grew and grew and grew and became, enough to make a book. That's how I started writing for kids. But the website in particular, it's because I'm worried that in terms of access to our history, and knowing about our legends, people who have done great things, who are of African descent or from Africa, there's very, very little out there. And also even nursery rhymes, especially for children in Africa. Some of the things we've done with our nursery rhymes is we've given them Afro beats and African rhythms so that the children, can enjoy the kind of music, that has always moved the spirit of Africa. So it's a lot of things behind it, but it's one that gives me a lot of satisfaction, and that's why I'm always excited, when I find people like you who have the same kind of a mindset. The more of us, that are out there telling our stories, the better the future is for our children. So, are you prepared to share some of your oncoming titles? Maybe not so much the stories, or some of the titles that we can look out for in future.
That one is a top secret.
Okay.
Yes. But I really urge people to check out the kundakids.com. Their stories are well illustrated, very beautiful, and they took it upon themselves, just as you, Dr. Bunmi, to change the narrative, to take back our own stories. I mean, how can you be an African child thinking of Snow White and the seven dwarfs? Like, that is not, it's not even in our environment. It's not something that we should be influenced by. So take the time, check out their website. We have the discount 15% for Malwa. They have great things in store for you. I think even as an adult, you can just grab a copy and read it for yourself.
And actually, it's important for parents to, and you make their work easy, because even if parents do not have time to, sit and make up stories for their kids, but with books like the types you have out there, or like the stories I have on our website, you can spend 10-15 minutes every evening, with your child, enriching them with cultural knowledge, and you're not just enriching them. When we enrich our children with cultural knowledge, we're actually strengthening them, we're bracing them, for a world which, for all intents and purposes, has been set up to negate them, and with our stories, we build them up. And this is not even something I'm making up. Yesterday, because I was having Black history lessons with one of my grandkids, and we were reading about I think yesterday we were reading about Angela Davis, and after listening, he goes, "Nana, when I grow up, is somebody going to write a book about me too?" And I,
Wow.
yes, if you excel at whatever you do, someone will write a book about you or write a story about you. So these things are really, they are essential parts of growing up. We just didn't appreciate them because, like you said, your parents made up the stories, my grandparents made up the stories. We didn't realize how crucial it
Yeah.
was in us turning out to be the kind of adults that we are. I can assure you that a child who is told stories about Africa or African stories will not grow up to be a child who is laid back, or who accepts racism without standing up, to confront it. So
That's
well done. Congratulations once again, Linda. And
Thank you.
we hope to be seeing more from your pen. And then we would love to, have you here again when your next book is out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you for being a part of the Sankofa Pan-African series. Please subscribe if you haven't. Support us through Patreon or by buying me coffee. And don't forget to download your free copies of our children's books and explore our website. There are lots of resources there, not just for the kids, but for parents. See you next time. Thank you to Nacheki and for honoring us by being a part of a Sankofa Pan-African series today. Bye.